And I was like, if you could save $100 a month, like what do you need to do? And like I'm really trying to get people to invest in Bitcoin, which is the next video we're gonna watch here in a second. Think that like maybe someone needs to know about this right here.
In a cost of living crisis in the UK and many countries around the world are either in or on the brink of recession. So one of the most popular questions we've had at the Diary of a CEO in the last 3 to 6 months is about money, people's concern about their own money, spending.
Do you see why I'm watching it? Because like I increasingly I don't know, the world's about to get real. The next 5 years is critical. Like everyone needs to be paying attention to what they're doing a lot with their money and getting it out of fiat currencies, because albeit I don't like digital currencies, I just know there is no way to stop certain things that are happening in the system of mental control. And so therefore one of them is this transition out of the complete like analog age to the complete digital age. Do you see what I'm saying?
Being finance and saving. If I'm someone out there now that has, I don't know, $100 or £100 worth of disposable income every month, or if I have £1,000 or £10,000, what should I be thinking about as it relates to creating more money and making myself financially free?
The first thing is you just want to earn more. People massively settle for how much they could earn. So the first place.
I kind of don't like his answer because he's a really rich dude. And he's like, just earn more. And some people don't have the ability to do that. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, I get where it's beneficial. I get that, like, obviously, like, I don't know, I've earned more as I found different jobs. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, I get it to a degree, but I also, like, some people can't do that. They don't have the abilities, you see what I'm saying, to transition. Like, so what about those people that aren't going to have that ability to transition to make more money, but they're going to need to be able to survive, right?
Place I think to invest is in yourself. But here's the first principle. The first principle is income follows assets. Income follows assets means that the more assets you have, the more income you'll earn. If I want rental income, first I need a house. If I want dividend income, I need shares. If I want to be paid as a brand ambassador, first I need a brand. So essentially, the more we can accumulate assets, the more easy and effortless the money flows. So we have to figure out, well, what assets could you accumulate and what assets could you formalize and own? I wrote a book called 24 Assets, and I listed out all the different digital assets that are new economy assets that people could have. Things like brand and positioning, things like databases, things like company culture is an asset now. So I talk about how do you formalize those things? If someone's just starting out and they've got 100 a month, to be perfectly honest, trying to invest 100 a month or any of that, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change your life. But if you put that into your own skills and your own development, let's say you don't have negotiation skills. Well, there are courses that you can take for $100 that give you negotiation skills. Let's say you don't know how to close sales. You can take a...
Check it out. Everything that he's talking about you can do for free, but if you're willing to pay for it, you're going to expedite your ability to increasingly learn things quicker through paying for it. I know, because I kind of like learned how to do certain things, like because I paid for certain things over not paying for certain things.
A course on how to make sales.
But you can always learn for free. Like it's going to take you more of your willpower and willingness to practice the said thing that you're learning, because it's all on you, versus like paying for it gives you an incentive. Do you see what I'm saying? And there's more help to make it streamline it. You know what I mean?
Let's say you don't feel confident public speaking, you could do a public speaking course. So there are things that allow you to gain your skills. The other thing too is money is relational.
Skills kill. You don't want those. You want abilities, because you're like a superhero.
Relationships. So if you don't have a lot of money, you typically don't have a lot of relationships. You might have a limited number of relationships, or a limited number of relationships with people who have a flow of money. When you have a high degree of relationships with people who've got money flowing, it's very effortless for that to flow to and from you as well. So you might have to invest in relationships. When I arrived in the UK,
That's very hard for me to do, because I can't help but talk about the truth that must go for everyone. And I comprehend that I absolutely know that is a thing that goes for everyone. Like, it cannot be denied. And everyone should get on that page because that's how we will be free from all this tyranny.
Knew that one of the places that I would meet interesting people would be private banks. So I didn't qualify for private bank, but I went into a private bank and I said, I'm going to be launching a business, and of course it's going to be great and successful. I want to bank with a private bank. Do you have an entrepreneurs program? Oh yeah, we did. And they start selling me joining the entrepreneurs program. Now it cost me £600 to open an account with that private bank, but they immediately invited me to dinners and they invited me to networkings and all these sorts of things in the private bank. One of the things that I've recommended a lot of people do is host dinner parties and reach out to people who you don't know. Here's a silly story. I was just in Dubai.
Yeah, where I live, I can't do that. But you see, like, need a cold one, go grab you a fresh one.
And I know someone who has a 100-foot yacht. So I said, Jeremy, can I borrow your yacht for the evening? I'm going to be putting 15 really influential people for a dinner party. We're going to have burgers on the boat. And he said, oh, great, can I come? And I said, of course you can come. It's your boat, right? So he said, great, that'll be exciting. So,
but see, like, you just asked. Okay. Rich people's mindset is way crazy. Like, I'm just going to ask my friend who has a yacht, can I borrow it, bro, to host this dinner so that way I can get more leverage? Like, he's not speaking from the bottom, like complete bottom.
he basically said, you can host this party on my 100-foot boat. So I reached out to all the people who I didn't know and I said, hey, we're putting together burgers on the boat. Would you like to come along and have some burgers with interesting people? And then they came along and I made the investment into relationship. Now, the funny thing is a lot of people will say, oh, but you know someone with a 100-foot yacht. Funny thing is, I think plenty of people who have a boat, especially in Dubai, it sits empty most of the time. You could reach out to 30 people and say, we're going to do it on someone's boat. Would you like it to be your boat with or without you energy? So making investments into relationships,
that makes sense.
It's a really powerful thing. For $100 a month, personally, what would I do with $100 a month? Take people out to dinner. That would be my number one investment. I'd probably be taking people out to dinner.
Why?
The investment into the relationship. So I would be inviting the most interesting people I could possibly invite. If I had the ability for $100 a month, I guess that's one dinner. So I would reach out to someone interesting and say, I've seen your story. I've seen what you're interested in. Can I take you out for lunch? Can I take you out for dinner? It's my shout. I'd love to get to know you a little bit better. Obviously, don't do that with someone who's famous. You get 100 of those a day. I get plenty of those a day. Reach out to someone who's not famous, but who's accomplished, who's successful, who's a mentor-esque type person, not necessarily a superstar, but someone who's a few steps ahead. Take those people out to lunch, take them out to dinner.
Would you say in that message that, you talk about calls, I talk about emails. What?
I don't even know if I could do that. I don't know. Maybe next year. Maybe next year I could try something like that. That's interesting. I gotta develop a plan for that sort of thing.
What would someone have to say to you, considering where you are in your life now with all the inquiries you get, for you to actually go for a coffee with them?
That was a good question.
Bear in mind, everyone's going to email you and say this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it happened today, actually. Someone said, Daniel, I noticed in the background of one of your photos that you have an amazing Fender Stratocaster. I teach people how to play guitar. I would love the opportunity to do a guitar lesson with you and help you to shred on that guitar. And it was really nice. He had watched my podcasts in the past. He had noticed the guitar. He reached out with something that was valuable for me. And he said, I'd love to have a chat with you and teach you how to play some guitar. And I'll have a chat with him while we do that. But that was it felt like a good connection. I also had a look at his profile and he looked like a really lovely person, who's getting on with doing stuff. There's a bit of with or without you energy as well in terms of, I can see this person's up to stuff.
So I look at that and I go, he did some research on you. Mm-hmm. He offered you value in an area where you were potentially seeking or looking for the value.
Yep. Oh, that's definitely true if you've seen me play guitar.
But that's like the core component. I feel the same.
Okay. Crazy. Well, I guess I'll do everything they're talking about through what I'm doing right here.
way that I try and figure out why
Maybe.
sometimes I reply to these cold outreach messages, but 99.9% of the time I don't. And it tends to be the case that the person will say, they'll show that they've done some kind of research on me, which is good for your ego. Like everyone has an ego. You want to feel like someone actually cares. And then they'll offer me something in return for
By the way, do you know I did this to you? I
Really?
don't even know if you remember. You and I were both speakers at a conference.
Right.
And we were in the elevator, and I'd prepared for you a really nice leather briefcase, and it had your. I created the Happy Sexy Millionaire thing, and we gave all the speakers one of those. You weren't that special. We had some for all the speakers. But anyway, it was interesting because I actually have done that with you, and we never ended up following up with you, and you never followed up with us. But here's the thing.
That's really
I want to
awkward.
share that. No, I want to share that because sometimes it doesn't work. Right? Sometimes you have to send out, like when I sent out 3,000 cold DMs to launch a business, I didn't expect 3,000 people to respond. I expected 30 or 40 people to come back to me. When I gave that to you, do you remember it?
I remember getting a briefcase, and I'm trying to. I do quite a lot of public speaking these days. So
We only had like a 2-minute interaction, and I said, "Hey, this is a little gift for you. Inside, we've created something for you. Have a look."
Was it something I had to scan?
Probably.
Was there something scannable in there?
Yeah, we'd built you a little landing page campaign.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and
I remember getting in the car and saying to my team, "Oh, this is cool."
yeah, and then of course it gets passed to the team, and they're like, "Yeah, fair enough."
Yeah.
Put that on the pile of cool things. So the point is I'm saying that to say these things. You don't want to get hung up on the idea that one person's like in that same event. We gave that same thing to.
Well, I guess in that sense, like I'm doing exactly what he's talking about. Kind of like I just like don't even care anymore. Like I just say what I say. I put it out here. I'm putting it out here. I don't care what anyone else thinks. And if it catches on, hopefully it does, because I'm certain that language manipulation is definitely been going on for a very long time. And the more that everyone can become aware of that, I think the better the world will be. And I don't know. It just makes sense to me to push that narrative. And regardless of if I get anyone to respond to me or help me or to be able to do anything he's talking about, because you know how hard it would be for, I don't know, I think it'd be very difficult for me to cold call and invite people that I've never met that are more successful than me, and then get them in a room and be like, so tonight we're going to talk about language manipulation history and how it has affected our society in general and reality overall. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
To another really well-known person, they've gone with it, and they're like, millions of followers, and they're one of our clients now. So we have with or without you energy, which is when my team do this, we pick 30 or 40 people who'd make amazing connections and contacts in our VIP outreach team, and then we reach out to them, and we expect maybe 2 or 3 of them to get back to us. So it's that idea of, don't, like, if someone messages you and you don't message back, it's not the end of the world. There are other people you can message, and look what happens.
There you go.
It comes around again.
It always comes around again.
If it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
So what about people, so many members of my team speak to me and ask me about investing. They might have tens of thousands to invest or whatever, but I'm curious about your personal investment thesis. With the capital that you have spare, what do you do with it to create more money?
So
what does your portfolio look like?
it's extremely boring. I just stick any available capital into S&P 500.
What's the S&P 500 for anyone that doesn't know?
Yeah, the top 500 stocks in the US. So essentially, any government that inflates its currency anywhere in the world, that money will hit the economy, and it will eventually make its way back to the top 500 companies in the US through spending, or
That's crazy.
that capital will end up being put into the S&P 500, which inflates it. So one way or another, it's going back.
I'm back. Cold beer and a ham and cheese sandwich toasted. Damn, bro. Legit. Yeah, bro. Like, Mike, you don't even know. Like, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm about to tell you, so you're about to know. Anyways. Don't do what fucking Jesse did. But I don't say that word. You don't but anything. Never cancel out anything you say. Yeah, so like I'm working on like transitioning to only eating super healthy It's called the Don't Die Diet. If you go scroll through my page, you will find the picture of the Don't Die Diet, and I'm going to start investing in that and making meals based on that chart. And I've already had AI. I've already had ChatGPT give me a whole list, everything I need, like meals that I can make based on the ingredients that I'm buying. I got it all set up. It's just I gotta save a little bit because the initial, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been living very poorly, like, you see what I'm saying? And I'm doing a lot of investing into things so that way, like, I can continue to do this and not worry about needing any of the audience to pay me anything to do this. I don't want to have to think about that. You see what I'm saying? So I don't care how big or small or whatever, right? I only care about being able to do this freely without having to worry about money. And the more I can figure out that, the more I'm going to be able to do this and focus on this more. And like in the next 5 years, 80 to 85% of all jobs that are even able to be, like, think about that, right? Like, okay, think of it this way, right? Excuse me. The industrial, like revolution, right? That shit took like a while, right? Like, it didn't just happen in like 5 years, right? It took a moment for it to totally scale, right? With this, bro, like in 5 years, 80% of all jobs are gone. Right now, the majority of the world is walking around like that's not going to happen. Do you see what I'm saying?
To the top 500 companies in the US. So it's almost impossible to beat the S&P 500. I hate investing. It's not my thing. I like expansive business creation. I'm an optimist. Great investors are often pessimists. They're very good at thinking what could go wrong and analyzing risk. I hate that shit. So for me personally, I want to, as much as possible,
I'm not a pessimist.
expand the portfolio of business.
I'm not an optimist either because that's dualistic, and I don't think in those terms because that's an insane way to think because it's a false mental reality
that I think should exist in the world. And I've always made my money by just saying I romantically like the idea of this business existing and I'm going to pour my energy into it and it's going to become worth millions. Rather than thinking about where I want to invest money, I want to create something that's investable for other people to put money into because that's how you really make money. So the exciting thing is not placing my own chips. The exciting thing is creating something where others want to place chips into that.
So let's talk about that journey then.
Yep.
That journey from...
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that with the kind of the niche I'm in guy. Like, I'm pretty sure he would agree with me if I had the ability to talk to him. That, like, if I was like, my whole niche is attempting to tell people about the truth that must be for everyone, that, like, goes to the extreme nature of that it's absolute in the fact that these are answers that only can have one answer. Like, everyone breathes the same thing. Trees dispel oxygen and breathe in our carbon dioxide that we breathe out. It's like these truths that go for everyone are just innate. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's no debate. And I don't think as a society have focused on those for a very long time.
Got an idea, want to start that ice cream business, that Chilean basil ice cream business, whatever.
Exit for tens of millions.
Exit for tens of millions. I get off the ground. People love my Chilean basil ice cream. What is the journey that an entrepreneur goes on from zero up until they exit?
So there's a key stages. The first 4 stages where everyone gets caught is called chaos, concept, audience, offer, sales. So you have to develop your concept. So it's a good concept. You've validated it. You've conducted some
I'm very proud. Dude, I've been doing this for 14 years before I really have now started focusing on talking about this stuff on the internet. So check. Did that one. Got it. Niche. You got the niche. Got the concept. Totally got it. Well, I don't know about other people excited about it. I do at least live in a place where I can speak freely and be able to do this, and no one in this house is going to freak out about anything I say, about anything I talk about, which is pleasant because never really experienced that anywhere.
Audience is that you engage an audience. Waiting lists, dinner parties, scorecards, quizzes, discussion groups, all of those are great audience builders.
Yeah.
Offer is that you construct a packaged up offering so that people can buy something and that that audience can now act on something and buy. and then sales, which is the
See, this is where I get mucked up, right? Because like I'm not trying to sell you anything. Because what I'm telling everyone is already innately in their body. And so how do I sell you something that you technically already own within yourself? You just have to choose to want to look and seek to find it within yourself. Like, you see what I'm saying? So that's free will on top of that, let alone trying to sell you that. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, it makes no sense to me, right? So that's, again, why I'm attempting to generate funds in a manner that I don't ever have to worry about work again. And I don't have to worry about getting paid by anyone who chooses to watch me. And if I never get large enough to get paid by YouTube or Facebook or any of that, it doesn't matter, because I'll just be doing this till I die anyways.
the ability to
And I don't die because I'm spirit made of energy. Energy doesn't die.
talk and discuss with your interested parties to close deals, to actually get sales across the line, and to do that predictably and reliably. So for sales, we establish something called a rhythm of laps: leads, appointments, presentations, and sales. And we measure our pipeline every week: how many leads, how many appointments, how many presentations, how many sales. So those are the first four things: concept, audience, offer, sales. And that should get you into the 6 figures of revenue just by doing that. The next thing is about team building. You've got to establish a key person of influence who's got a personal brand, who's the leader of the company, who's going to embody the brand. And you've got to build a team of 8 people around them: a general manager, marketing and sales, finance admin, IT, media, and operations, those kind of roles. And essentially, you now build this core team of 8, and the key person of influence.
That's not bad. I only have to find 8 people that have the ability to stomach what I'm saying and also be in those categories of people that are willing to do that type of work. It's not as many as I thought it was going to be.
Job is to engage bigger and bigger audiences. And so they get out there and tell the story of the business. They get on stages, they pitch, they publish content, they raise their profile, they do joint ventures and partnerships. So they're leading from the front, while the general manager or ops director is making sure things don't fall apart behind. Once you hit about 8 people, you now have to digitize absolutely everything of value in that business. So now you go through the whole process of digitization of the value. So you're getting ready to scale.
Which means, for example, moving physical relationships to a CRM, some kind of database, or
building a CRM, formalizing your intellectual property, building a brand, a company brand, formalizing your organizational culture, getting into really good investor relationship and documentation, governance. So all of these are developing systems, developing assets of the business, having online marketing and sales systems, having an online way of generating a lot of leads reliably, having an online way of making customers mostly happy most of the time. So you're basically trying to build as many assets as possible. What you're trying to do at about 8 to 10 people is raise revenue per person. So let's say you've got 10 people with 100,000 per person. So you've got $1 million of revenue, 10 people times 100,000, $1 million of revenue. If you can add assets and get it to go to 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 million, now you've got 130,000 per person. So what you're trying to do is add as many digital assets as possible to get the revenue per employee or the revenue per person up. Once you see that the revenue per person is going up, now you can add people. Because the more digital assets there are, times by the number of people, now you're going to be successful. Now, the really hard jump is from 12 to 30. From 12 people to 30, you're too big to be small, too small to be big. Very difficult time in any business's life. And what you have to do is go through a transformation of a small team of rebels and misfits to a professional team that's manufacturing value. A lot of people have to go. Unfortunately, some of the earlier people who were there because they could breathe and had a pulse and all of that sort of stuff, they unfortunately have to go find a new startup. And you now have to go and bring on team members who come through recruiters with a proper process and who they go through. And
that's some fucked up shit, what he just said right there. He's basically saying, like, right, the people that created something out of nothing due to the fact that they didn't like the stuff that they were already existing in eventually have to go, because the thing that was created eventually has to turn into the thing that they don't want nothing to do with anyways. And why they started up the thing they started up.
an entire process of how they join the team, they're onboarded correctly, and now you transform into a more valuable professional organization. Once you hit 30, you've got a 5-person executive team plus a non-executive director and an advisor, and then you've got some teams of teams, and now you're doing 10 million of revenue, 3 million of profit, and now you're exitable.
Have you got to make a decision early?
That was a mouthful.
No, but
Sorry.
it's so true. It's so funny.
Did you agree with that?
All of it. I agreed with all of it. The interesting thing as well is the part you said about, of the first 10 people you hire, very few of them are equipped already or able to adjust to the environment you have at 30, 40, 50, 60, 100.
Totally.
And part of what I've noticed is that when there's 10 people, you're acquiring a different set of skills, and you're thinking more about multidisciplinary individuals that can kind of wear a few hats but not do anything exceptionally well.
Swiss Army knives.
Yeah.
They can do 25 things badly.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you get to like 50, 60, 70 people, it's really
Specialists.
specialists.
Bread knife.
Bread knife,
Just
yeah.
cuts bread really well. Just that.
So on this then, when we're thinking about our own careers, we've got to
Okay,
ask ourselves that
with the way he said it right there, it kind of makes more sense.
question, which is, are we a specialist that should be going into a company where there's 50, 60, 70 people?
I'm a specialist in language, history, and manipulation.
Or are we that kind of Swiss Army knife that should be playing in startups?
I'm also an expert at spitting lyrics like a motherfucker.
And then going from 0 to 1 versus like 1 to 2.
Yeah, I've had to wrestle with that myself. I personally absolutely adore the first 2 million of revenue. That is where my fun, that for me is fun. It's where I find it exciting. I become almost pathologically distracted once we hit 2 million of revenue. And I have to remind myself, oh, wait a second, we've got a fast growth business here. Stop thinking about other things. I really enjoy getting businesses past that first couple of 100,000 a month. And then for whatever reason, I'm like dreaming of a blank page. I just want something like, oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? But here's the cool thing. There are so many amazing people who are phenomenal at the 2 to 20 million jump. So at the moment, the person who's leading Dent Global is Glenn Carlson. Glenn I've known him since I was 14 years old. And
Interesting.
actually, what he's phenomenal at the moment, we've discovered, is that he's really, really good at driving that next jump, the 2 to 20 million jump. So there's the zero to 200 grand like testing. There's the 200 grand to 2 million, which is like, yeah, okay, this thing's got some legs. There's the 2 million to 20 million jump, which is we're professionalizing. We're becoming a proper business. We're becoming valuable. We're getting all the right people. What's shocked me, because I've known Glenn for so many years, is that we've just recently discovered that that's what he's suited to. He's really good at the 2 to 20 million jump. He's so good at recruiting talented people. He's so good at pushing them through a process that weeds out like 15 amazing people down.
Like, see, that's the thing. See, like, I'm the guy who thinks of this stuff, right? Like, I just thought of a t-shirt. You see what I'm saying? Because of what he just said, I just thought of how to create a t-shirt. You see what I mean? But see, like, to get the t-shirt created, actually to people, that's a whole different thing, bro.
Down to 2 amazing people, down to 1.
How would you make the case to someone that's just heard what you've said about your companies and that you like that 0 to 2 million phase? What case would you make to me to admit what I'm not good at for the sake of my business? Because everyone can relate. Like, I don't mean to share this without asking him, but I'm sure like he's in control of the edit, so he can take it out if he doesn't like it. But did you think I was going to do it? Jack turned around to our team the other day, and I've actually spoken to so many people about this moment since he said it. Jack said, you know what? Jack's run this podcast from 0, so 0 subscribers to where it is now, it's 5 million subscribers. Jack turned around at 5 million subscribers and was like, I'm not the best in the world at doing lighting. So what I've done is I've gone out and I found someone who's the best at lighting, and they're going to teach me. They're going to redesign my set. 5 million subscribers. He's getting someone else to redesign a set so that the lighting is amazing. Right. It takes a certain kind of person to put winning over ego.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. See, that's what I want. I just want someone. That's what I need to find, is people that are willing to help me make this better. So that way it's more engaging. So that way the truth that goes for everyone can start to be more known and become more aware. Like, it's happening anyways. Like, it doesn't really matter, actually. That's why I think it's hilarious, because I don't need to do anything, actually. Like I could just go sit in the corner and like invest in Bitcoin and in 10 years be a millionaire while everybody else is sitting on their ass going like, what the fuck am I doing?
And I think about this so many, you know, Jack probably didn't know the profoundness of that moment to me, but someone who is applauded from every...
I think that's the best way to create content, right? Like I think people that create content from the necessity that they need it because they need it to survive, and then so that becomes a job, right? And see, like I don't want a job. I just want to be able to sit on the internet and talk about people and what they're doing and saying, because I'm speaking about language and everyone speaks it. And so therefore, as a subject, I have the right to speak on it. And so if anyone takes this subject personally, you're already showing how ignorant you are, because I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about a language you use, which is not the same thing. And that's where I bring in brainwashing, because if you think that you are the language you speak, then you are completely enamored by the language manipulation and brainwashed.
Oh, you've built the best, you know, whatever. For him to go, do you know what? There's so much I don't know.
He role modeled humility, and he role modeled the idea of winning is better than being
right. Yeah.
And overlings, not underlings. That a great company is great because you bring in overlings, not underlings. So an underling is someone who's not as good as you are, and an overling is someone who's way better than you are. So it's that confidence to bring in the overlings. All of my businesses have been great because overlings run them. Everyone who is in my organization is way better than me at the thing they're doing. And I feel like the conductor in the orchestra can't play all the instruments and probably maybe is okay at one instrument, but actually their ability to bring in the best in the world at that instrument is what makes them a great conductor, the ability to enroll people. So the first thing I'd say is that there's value to be made at every level. If you're watching this and you're not a founder, and you're sitting there going, all the people who make the money are the people who start from scratch and get something off the ground, and look at Daniel and look at Stephen. Those guys are the 0 to 1 guys. Wouldn't it be great if I was one of those? But I'm not. Well, actually, that's not true. The truth is that there's incredible wealth to be created if you can take something from 2 to 20 million. There's amazing wealth if you can take something from 20 to 200 million. Do you know, this is worth mentioning, one of the biggest opportunities in the world right now, there's two major opportunities in the world, but one of the biggest opportunities in the world at the moment is baby boomers who want to retire. And a typical scenario is you get someone who's late 60s, early 70s. The business had a high watermark of a couple of million, and now it's dropped down to maybe $1 million or high six figures because the person's semi-retiring, and because the business has been on decline, it's almost unsaleable. The person wants to retire and they just want to hand over the keys, and they just want that business to go to someone who's fresh. And what they're willing to do is to do a vendor sale exit. Cody Sanchez, she talks about this. I've done deals like this. And actually Jeremy with the 100-foot yacht, that's how he does it. So you buy a business that the person wants to retire, and you take over that business with fresh energy and you bring it back to its high watermark. So there are so many people who what they would be suited for is not starting with a blank sheet of paper like me, but they would actually go and find, Bill and Sarah, I don't want to be that guy. And they want to do a deal where they get paid out over 5 years. Everyone needs to hand over the keys to the business.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.
Yeah, that was a good video. Go ahead and like it. I'm going to put it in the link description below. And very interesting. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do anything. Some of that stuff I'm doing kind of, but some of it I don't know exactly how to do, because I don't want to enter the world of business like that, because it's all based on a bunch of stuff I don't want nothing to do with. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a very fine line I'm attempting to walk right now. Because obviously I conceptualize that I need money to survive, and that until the system of mental control has extinguished all options of it attempting to stay alive, will one see reality for what it is. And I don't even know if I will be able to be existing when that happens. I just know that that is the imperative in every single cell in my body to do. So, if you want to become more aware, you should like and subscribe.